Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the tech world's biggest and honestly most stubborn rivalry, Mac versus Windows security. If you've ever sat there wondering which of these devices is actually doing a better job of locking down your personal data, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to completely strip away the marketing jargon and look straight at the cold hard facts.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Differing OS security philosophies. 2. Inside Apple's walled garden. 3. Microsoft's layered defense system. 4. Which OS wins where? And finally, number 5, the ultimate security threat.
Look, everyone has a passionate opinion about the iconic Mac versus PC debate, right? Especially when we start talking about keeping our digital lives safe. I mean, for decades now, this rivalry has dominated coffee shop arguments and corporate IT meetings alike. You've probably heard the old sayings, that Macs just don't get viruses, or that Windows PCs are constantly under attack.
But instead of relying on those outdated myths, we are going to look strictly at the data and the architecture to answer one fundamental question: which operating system is actually more secure? Because the reality, both platforms have evolved dramatically, but they take entirely different paths to get to that security.
All right, Section 1, Differing OS Security Philosophies.
It really all comes down to a fundamental choice in ecosystem design. Apple operates what we call a closed and controlled ecosystem. They tightly control literally everything, from the physical silicon chip inside the computer to the operating system, the firmware, and the core apps. It's a highly integrated, locked-down environment. Now, on the flip side, Microsoft designs an open and flexible ecosystem. Windows is built to run on thousands of wildly diverse hardware configurations. It supports millions of apps and countless older legacy peripherals. That flexibility is absolutely brilliant for choice, but naturally it creates a much larger attack surface.
Moving on to Section 2, Inside Apple's Walled Garden.
Now, let's explore this highly integrated, heavily guarded fortress of macOS. Because Apple controls the hardware, they can optimize security from the ground up. What's truly fascinating here is how modern Apple silicon, the M1, M2, and M3 chips, uses a dedicated hardware component called the Secure Enclave. This isn't just a piece of software, it's a physical security processor that is completely isolated from the main CPU. Think of it like a digital vault meant to protect your encryption keys, your Touch ID biometric data, your passwords. Because it's physically isolated, even if a hacker completely compromises the main processor, they still can't break into this vault.
And this hardware isolation brilliantly enables Apple's secure by default design. If you poke around the macOS privacy and security settings, you're going to find built-in protections like FileVault. FileVault gives you full disk encryption using incredibly strong XTS AES 128 encryption. Basically, if your Mac is stolen, your encrypted storage is practically impenetrable. Apple also goes heavy on privacy with strict app permission prompts, limited tracking, and those clear little indicators that pop up when your mic or camera is active.
Beyond just the hardware, macOS actively squashes threats using several core defenses. First up, there's Gatekeeper, which acts kind of like a strict bouncer at the door, verifying whether apps are signed by trusted developers and officially notarized by Apple. If an app fails the check, macOS just blocks it, no entry. Behind the scenes, tools like XProtect and the malware removal tool are silently updating and scanning for threats. And crucially, macOS uses sandboxing. This strictly limits what an application can access, like your personal files or network functions. So if an app ever does get compromised, the malware is stuck inside that sandbox and cannot infect the rest of your system.
All right, Section 3, Microsoft's layered defense system.
Now we turn over to Windows, which acts a lot more like a bustling, fortified metropolis, managing a massive attack surface because of all that flexibility we talked about. The crucial point here is that Windows 11 mandates strict hardware security, specifically requiring TPM 2.0 and Secure Boot. TPM stands for Trusted Platform Module. By forcing newer hardware to support this, Windows ensures malicious code, like nasty bootkits, literally can't launch before the operating system even starts. It secures your encryption keys and credential data right down at the hardware level, much like Apple's Secure Enclave does.
And because Windows has the monumental task of supporting older legacy software, it has to rely on incredible layered defenses. One absolute standout feature in Windows 11 is virtualization-based security, or VBS for short. This uses hypervisor technology to create a secure, isolated little bubble of memory. It tucks sensitive system processes away from potential malware. Windows also leans on BitLocker for enterprise-grade disk encryption, and Windows Hello, which leverages facial recognition and fingerprint scanning. This significantly drops the phishing risks that come from having to manually type out your passwords all the time. You know, decades ago, running a Windows PC practically required you to go out and buy third-party antivirus software. Today, that is absolutely no longer the case. Tools like Microsoft Defender and SmartScreen provide such strong cloud-based threat intelligence that the built-in protections are seriously considered robust enough for everyday users. Plus, Smart App Control uses cloud reputation systems to proactively block unknown software, malicious downloads, and phishing sites before they can even do a bit of damage.
Section 4. Which OS wins when?
So let's compare some real-world use cases because honestly, the best security often depends entirely on who is using the computer and what they're trying to do. While macOS is generally considered safer for average home users, thanks to its restricted defaults and historically fewer malware threats, Windows entirely dominates the enterprise IT world. Businesses absolutely rely on Windows because of centralized management tools like Active Directory, Group Policy, and Microsoft Defender for endpoint. The auditing and logging capabilities are just incredibly powerful for corporate IT. Meanwhile, your power users and gamers almost exclusively lean toward Windows for maximum compatibility with all sorts of hardware and massive game libraries. They rely on tools like Secure Boot and, quite frankly, just good browsing habits to navigate that slightly larger attack surface.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate security threat. Here is the surprising twist that acts as the great equalizer between both of these tech giants, regardless of their impressive engineering. Neither operating system is completely immune to attacks. Regardless of whether there's an Apple or a Windows logo on your laptop, attackers often just bypass the operating system entirely by targeting human psychology. They use phishing emails, social engineering tricks, malicious browser extensions, and simple, weak passwords. I mean, think about it. Why spend months trying to hack through an M3 secure enclave or Windows virtualization-based security when you can just trick a user into handing over their password or downloading a fake software update?
So how do you actually protect yourself? Well, if you are in the Apple ecosystem, locking down your Mac means you must actively practice good habits. First, you've got to ensure FileVault is enabled so your disk is fully encrypted from day one. It is also absolutely critical to always keep macOS updated because that's how you get those latest X-Protect definitions. Beyond that, rely on genuinely strong passwords, utilize Touch ID to prevent shoulder surfing when you're out in public, and finally, stick exclusively to trusted app sources. Completely avoid pirated software. That stuff directly bypasses those powerful Gatekeeper protections we talked about. Now, for Windows users, your security means ensuring BitLocker is active for your drives right out of the gate. Make sure you allow those automatic Windows updates to run, no matter how annoying the timing might occasionally feel. Come on, we've all been there. Additionally, never ever disable built-in protections like Microsoft Defender and SmartScreen just to install a piece of legacy software. And make it a point to actively verify that TPM and Secure Boot remain fully turned on in your system settings.
We're going to leave you with this final, provocative thought directly from our source material. Are you spending too much time debating which hardware to buy when your own daily browsing habits are actually the most critical security system of all? Both macOS and Windows 11 are highly advanced, remarkably secure operating systems today. But the most powerful firewall in the world? That's a cautious, informed user. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay safe out there in the digital world.